Nama Om Vishnu Vada Krishna Presta Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatadeshatane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapatribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. All right, so yes, we're now going into section B, the demoniac nature, from verse 7 to verse 20. We mentioned the nature of it. Basically, the theme is one of hopeless horribleness. It's just absolutely shocking, disgusting, and just hopelessly terrible. Here's a little summary, of some of the verses. In verse 7, actually, no, I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to read through the verses from verse 7 to verse 20. Why not? I think that's the best thing to do, really. So here we go. And fasten your seatbelts, devotees, seriously, because it's pretty shocking. So in verse 7, those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness, nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. Okay, verse 8. They say that this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Verse 9. Following such conclusions, the demoniac, who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. That was number 9. Number 10, taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. Verses 11 and 12. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires, and absorbed in lust and anger. They secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. Verses 13, 14, and 15, 3 verses together. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense gratification, sense enjoyment, and fall down into hell. Wow. 17. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige. They sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. 18. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. 19. Those who are mischievous and envious, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life, attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti. Such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Krishna, that's heavy, isn't it? Isn't that just super heavy? Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. A fair number of verses. Let's begin again with number 7. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior, nor truth is found in them. Well, it's a hard life, isn't it? It's just really incredibly extreme. All right, now, so in the purport, just give me a second here. Something went wrong there. All right, so now in the purport, Srila Prabhupada begins by pointing out that every human society has some set of scriptural rules and regulations. Yeah. And this is especially amongst those who follow the Vedic culture. It's really very, very, very prominent. I don't know if you remember from last night how we read there was an introduction to some of the main qualities or characteristics of the mentality of the demons. And one of them was that they don't have standard scriptural rules. They function on the basis of just whimsy, really. On the basis of the senses, whatever whimsical ideas crop up. Yeah. And that type of solution, of course, there are many problems in life which need to be solved. But that type of solution, just made up on the spur of the moment, whimsically, and just on the base, just like circumstantially, just because there's certain situations existing, they may provide solutions, but only temporarily. After a little while, circumstances will change, and the solutions of yesterday will not work today. Yeah, so rather what's needed is the standard eternal rules and regulations of the Vedic literatures, particularly Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, how we should live, how we should become devotees of the Lord and live like that. So, yes, so this is very typical of the demons. Then, we're in the first paragraph here, and there's a lecture of Srila Prabhupada's on this verse, and he begins that class by saying that this is the first qualification of a demon. As the verse says, don't know what to do and don't know what not to do. Yeah. And therefore they just sort of casually make solutions which fall to pieces after a while. Anyway, so this is the first qualification of a demon. Don't know what to do or not to do, not clean, not well behaved, not truthful. Yeah. And then Prabhupada continued, why a person is not accepting tea or smoking or something else, and why other person is accepting the same thing. Amongst the animals also, you give something to an animal, he will reject, and another thing he'll accept. These two things are there in every living being, accepting something and rejecting something. This is called pravriti and nivriti. So far the human form of life is concerned, there must be some pravriti and nivriti. There is that inclination, pravriti and nivriti, but they should be synchronized, systematized. What things we should accept and what things we should reject, that we must learn. Therefore, we've got so many books, literature, education, what things we should accept and which things we should reject. But what is the basic principle? Why I shall accept something and reject something? The basic principle is to go forward in our spiritual understanding. Right. Prabhupada, in the purport here, in the first paragraph, down towards the last third, or half even, the last half of the verse, the purport more or less, Prabhupada says the demons are not clean externally or internally. And we should keep the body clean externally, bathing, brushing teeth, shaving, changing clothes. Shaving, that's an interesting one. Prabhupada, he would always shave his hair, have his head shaved or shave it himself or whatever. Regularly. You never see Prabhupada with hair, and he would always shave his face. He would never half grow a beard. The only time I've seen a photo of Prabhupada where, you could see there's some whiskers was when he was at Kumbh Mela in 77 it was. Beginning of 77. And there wasn't facility. Otherwise, you try to find a photo of Prabhupada where his head is not shaved. It doesn't mean like completely to the skin, but, like my hearers now, this is since last Saturday, and I'll do it again tomorrow. Yeah, what grows after a week or 10 days, something like that. And you try and find a photo of Prabhupada where you can see he's got something, even vaguely approaching a beard. Prabhupada never did that. Prabhupada, in fact, said, we are clean shaven. Yeah. So externally, the body has to be kept very clean, and internally, of course, through, as Prabhupada says here, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The demons don't like either of these. Even external cleanliness. In the days when I used to travel, I would frequent airports. I've been in so many airports, so much time. Oh my gosh. And, sometimes you've got to use the toilet. What can you do? And I would sort of, observe a little bit. And I would observe often that the people would use the toilet and walk straight out the door. Not even wash hands. I mean, seriously, what can you say? It's terrible. And what to speak of the internal cleanliness? And then behavior. Well, it's interesting. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada talks about behavior, how Manu Samhita provides different rules and regulations. And, it's interesting, ladies, the greater part, in fact, practically the whole second paragraph is about how ladies should live and act. Yeah, that's important. It's very important. Srila Prabhupada is giving such directions. And of course, as usual, Prabhupada is emphasizing that women should be protected by men, by the father, then by the husband, and then by the grown-up sons at the three different stages of life. This is what Prabhupada encouraged. Yeah. Nowadays, it's all just sort of so haphazard, it's just a shame. But this is what Vedic society, Vedic standards are, and Srila Prabhupada basically advocated those. In regard to rules and regulations, Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan says about the demons, their teachings are like the sounds of jackals and vultures. Yes. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the demons therefore do not accept any instruction which is good for society. And because they do not follow the experience of great sages and the rules and regulations laid down by the sages, the social condition of the demoniac people is very miserable. Look at the situation in America right now. Oh my Lord. It's just completely abysmal. Absolutely. And England is no better. And South Africa, no comment. Verse 8, they, the demons, They say that this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it's produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Based on the previous verse, where they don't know what to do, what not to do, and what they don't accept proper principles. So here's some of the bizarre ideas that they do accept in many cases. So Prabhupada begins the purport. The demonic conclude that the world is a phantasmagoria. There's no cause and effect, no control, and no purpose. Everything's unreal. They certainly don't think that it was created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a specific purpose, as we understand, to help reform the conditioned souls. That, that, of course, forget that. They got no idea at all about that. Let's just hang on a second. What am I doing here? Okay. Right. So, let's have a look here further. Yeah, they have different theories, which generally conveniently don't include God. Everything's matter. Some say life is a dream. Yeah, some sort of hallucination. And children, where do children come from? Just some material process, so you can just kill them, it doesn't matter because they're just lumps of matter. They're not actually persons, like real persons. No soul involved. Prabhupada says, as many living creatures come out from perspiration and from a dead body without any cause, the whole living world has come out of the material combinations of the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, material nature is the cause of this manifestation, and there's no other cause. This is how they think. And of course, particularly, they don't like accepting Krishna as the director. Prabhupada concludes the purport. In other words, among the demons, there's no perfect knowledge of the creation of the world. Every one of them has some particular theory of his own. According to them, one interpretation of the scriptures is as good as another, for they do not believe in a standard understanding of the scriptural injunctions. Okay, so then, based on these realizations, or these ideas, whimsical, mental ideas that they come up with just out of some foolish ignorance mixed with passion, then they act. Verse 9, following such conclusions, the demoniac who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world, like, these atomic bombs and all that sort of thing. What on earth? What craziness. On the basis of envy between the leadership of one country and the leadership of another, they just create these massive, gigantic weapons which can just obliterate so much. And And they cannot, it's beyond them, or at least it's so difficult, it's practically beyond them, to find how to work together happily. Happily. It's really so bad. So there's so many in life now. There's so many destructive things going on. So many destructive things. Weapons, drugs, these heavy, very strong narcotic type drugs, which in America, are killing so many, not the druggy hippie types. In my day, the only ones who took drugs, pretty much, were the long hairs, the hippies, those who are like rejects from society, who rejected society, and the kind of way out people. But now there are just so many normal, middle-class people, family people, working people. Somehow they get into these drugs, heavy, heavy drugs, and so many die. And so many families become ruined by the addictions and the struggles to deal with addiction and to feed addiction. And what about illicit sex? Oh my God. It's amazing, actually. All the variations now, transvestites and this and that. Kali Yuga, and the demoniac nature. So people, let's have a look here. Prabhupada says we're kind of in the middle of the purport. These materialistic inventions, they invent all sorts of technological this and that and so on and so forth. They're considered to be advancement of human society, but the result is that people grow more and more violent and more cruel to animals and cruel to other human beings. They have no idea how to behave toward one another. And Prabhupada makes the point that amongst demoniac people, it's very common that they like to kill animals. Very common. It's a sign of the demoniac nature that they are inclined to break regulative principles or to not uphold regulative principles. Yeah. So Prabhupada explains that these people are considered enemies of the world because their expertise is in creating distraction, not in creating brotherhood and working together and cooperating internationally. Yeah. So Prabhupada says this verse, spoken by the Lord 5,000 years ago, this verse anticipates the invention of nuclear weapons. Yeah. Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan says, these foolish people with worthless opinions, devoid of understanding of Atma as distinct from the body, fixed in actions of violence, slander, and insult, being enemies of the world, destroy spiritual truth. Now, based on this verse, we have a special question for Bhakti Shastri. And yeah, so this is based on Caitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 3, verse 90, which says, Adi Leela, chapter 3, verse 90. Those whose nature is demoniac cannot know Krishna at any time, but he cannot hide himself from his pure devotees. So we want you to refer to a Caitanya Charitamrita verse, which is explaining how the demoniac don't know Krishna at any time, but how Krishna cannot hide himself from his pure devotees. What was that verse? Do you remember the number? Chapter 3, verse 90. Verse 10. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. So this is sort of like the basic material consciousness. Prabhupada says, the demoniac mentality is described here. The demons have no satiation for their lust, just more and more and more things to try to enjoy. And so like this, their desires are insatiable and increasing and growing in size and in number, and it's difficult to fulfill all those desires. So what happens? Anxiety increases. Anxiety increases. They're always anxious because they're attracted to things which are not permanent. And because it's not permanent, you're going to lose it. And therefore anxiety is there. You're going to lose it, then you do lose it. Oh, then what? Then what? Well, who knows? Somehow find something else. So like this, they create, for example, towards the end, Prabhupada says, induced by pride and false prestige, they create some principles of religion which are not approved by the Vedic injunctions. Their own worshipable things, soccer teams, Haribol, politicians, entertainers, and particularly they're interested in sex and wealth. They have unclean vows, more wine, more women, more gambling, more meat eating. In the verse, there's the term asad graham. It's there in the verse. Let's just have a look. Where is it now? It's in the third line, asad graham, which translates as non-permanent things. Here's an interesting little point. Listen to this. Srila Baladev Vijabhushan says that asad graham also means, you can translate it as wicked crocodile. How's that? Wicked crocodile. So all these things they're attracted to are like ferocious crocodiles which are just going to, which they can't restrain, and are just going to attack them and cause them trouble. So Prabhupada concludes the purport saying, although such demoniac people are most abominable in the world, by artificial means the world creates a false honor for them. Although they're gliding toward hell, they consider themselves very much advanced. 11 and 12. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, their anxiety is immeasurable, bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires, and absorbed in lust and anger. They secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. So they think certainly sense gratification is the ultimate goal of life, and they maintain this to the time of death. They don't believe in life after death. They don't believe in the soul. They make plans for prolonging their material lives, but they can't do it beyond a certain point. Prabhupada told us a story you may have heard. Prabhupada mentioned the story of one man. Prabhupada, as I recall, Prabhupada was on a train, taking some train journey in India on business. And there was some wealthy man in the same compartment. Suddenly, as the train's just running along from between one town and another, the man had a heart attack. And so they called for a doctor. They found a doctor. The doctor came. The man was in a bad state. He was a businessman. And the man said to the doctor, if you can give me another 4 years, I'll give you, some substantial amount of money. He died before they reached the next station because the doctor, he's just traveling, dealing with a heart attack. They don't have the equipment when they're traveling on a train. Yeah. So that's life in the material world. And in the second paragraph, Prabhupada explains that on the basis of their not thinking there's any God, they think there's no witness when they do their nonsense. That you can just do it and it's all right. Little do they know there's a super soul. And, the example of the two birds in the tree, Prabhupada mentions, we already talked about that before. So they keep planning until they die. And they die with their plans. Their plans die with them. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, but one who is demoniac has no knowledge of Vedic scripture, nor has he any faith. Therefore he feels free to do anything for sense enjoyment, regardless of the consequences. So, a lot of anxiety, my gosh. So in one lecture, Prabhupada made the point that in Krishna consciousness, there is also anxiety, but it's purifying. Listen to this. Prabhupada says, even in Vrindavan there's anxiety. Radharani's in anxiety that Krishna's not here, how Krishna will come. The gopis are also in anxiety. The gopis are so in anxiety that about them it is said that when Krishna used to go to the forest for tending the cows, so the gopis were thinking at home that Krishna's feet are so soft that we hesitate to take his feet on our breast. But he's now walking in the forest and there's so many stones and pricks, and they're giving pain to Krishna's lotus feet. And thinking like this, they fainted. This is gopi. Krishna's out of the village, they're at home and they're thinking of Krishna and they fainted. This is also anxiety. So much anxiety that they fainted. But that is for Krishna. Therefore gopis are exalted. Ramya ke chidupasana vrajavadu varga virya kalpata. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu recommends There's no better type of worshipping Krishna than it was planned by the gopis. So there's also anxiety. So anxiety is spiritual anxiety. And the other is material anxiety. Spiritual anxiety means you're advancing in spiritual life. And material anxiety means you are going downhill. 13 to 15. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I'll gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He's my enemy, and I've killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I'm the Lord of everything. I'm the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I'm the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There's none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. So, of course, this is the big demon. The big demons are thinking like this. Yeah, we don't really need to say much about that. Prabhupada doesn't give a purport. It's just self-evident. Yeah. Okay, verse 16. Thus perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. So now the results, like the long-term results of being this type of person, gosh, terribly entangled and confused, they go to hell, and there they suffer terribly. So, well, in the first paragraph, Prabhupada's talking about how these people know no limit to their desire to get money. He thinks about what he has and how to increase it. He'll do anything to achieve that, even criminal things. He's enamored. He thinks he's getting everything by his own strength. He doesn't understand karma. Yeah, any competitor becomes an enemy. Prabhupada says at the end of this paragraph, this enmity becomes more and more deep between persons, then between families, then between societies, and at last between nations. Therefore there's constant strife, war, and enmity all over the world. Exactly. So, second paragraph, they often think that they're God. And a demoniac preacher says, why are you seeking God elsewhere? You're all God yourselves. Whatever you like you can do. Don't believe in God. Throw away God. God is dead. Rubbish. Paragraph 3, he's illusioned. Even though he sees many others who are rich and influential, but still he thinks he's the greatest. Yeah. And as far as being promoted to higher planets, we can get there just by material means, rocket ships to the moon or Mars, and Ravana, a staircase to the moon. Yeah. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the result is that without their knowledge, they're gliding toward hell. Here the Sanskrit word mohajala is very significant. Jala means net. Like fish caught in a net, they have no way to come out. It's just shocking, isn't it? Just shocking. An interesting little point finally here. Both Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vijayabhushan say that these types of demons go to a very dirty type of hell, like Vaitarani, which is full of blood, bones, and pus. So we have a special question here for those of you doing Bhakti Shastra, based on this verse here, number 16. So let's see, what is it now? It's a letter dated, oh boy, anyway, I hope you're going to find this. Letter to Makanlal, dated June 3rd, 1970, from Los Angeles. Letter to Makanlal, June 3rd, 1970, from Los Angeles. So the symptoms of Lord Nityananda's mercy are exhibited according to the description of Srila Narottam Das Thakur by the detachment from material sense enjoyment. Because without being freed from the attachment for material sense enjoyment, nobody can enter into the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So anyway, I pray to Krishna for you to get this one. But the question is, citing a letter from Prabhupada that was mentioned in class about sense enjoyment. Oh my gosh. Anyway, this is too esoteric. What exactly was mentioned about sense enjoyment? And 4 possibilities are mentioned, but the correct one is, but nobody can enter into the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna without being freed from the attachment for material sense enjoyment. Anyway, let's hope, we pray. Personally, I think it's a bit too esoteric, it's not a verse, which is clear or a purport. 17, self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige. They sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulations. So these people, they think themselves, Prabhupada says, they think themselves all in all, not caring for any authority or scripture. So thinking of that way, sometimes they do some sort of religious or sacrificial activity, but it's just nonsense, because they don't believe in authority. They won't do it authoritatively. Yeah. And mainly they just want to accumulate wealth and false prestige. That's the main thing. Srila Prabhupada, well, in the Ishopanishad, would you believe, Srila Prabhupada says, Atma Sambhavita. Atma Sambhavita, is it here? Oh, it is. It's right, these are the words right at the beginning of the verse, the Sanskrit. Atma Sambhavita, meaning that they're considered great only on the strength of deception and are empowered by the votes of the ignorant and their own material wealth. Wow, Hari Bol. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Atma Sambhavita means those who have attained worshipable status but are not respected by any well-bred people. Ooh, Krishna, Krishna. Yeah. Prabhupada talks about them in terms of their becoming religious leaders. Here's a list of different conception or different points in regards to them becoming religious leaders. First point, common men advertise themselves as God. 2, the foolish consider those people advanced in religion or spirituality. then the ones who are meant to be religious leaders dress like sannyasis or some sacred garb, but then they do nonsense even though they're dressed like saintly people. They don't, they're number, 5. They don't observe the restrictions for renunciates. 6, they think you can create your own religious path. And 7, well, interesting, Krishna uses, does he really? Oh, but he does, look at that. Last line, avidi purvakam. Avidi purvakam, which was also there in chapter 9, verse 23. It means they're doing things avidi. Vidi means rules. Avidi means without rules. Yeah. So Prabhupada translates it back there as in the wrong way. In the wrong way. Yeah. That back in 923, it's avidi purvakam is translated as in the wrong way. And then Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the word avidi purvakam, meaning a disregard from the rules and regulations, is especially stressed here. These things are always due to ignorance and illusion. Okay, let's see if we can finish the chapter. If not, it's all right. We can just carry on. I mean, we're going to carry on anyway on Monday because there are more verses. There's another section after verse 20. 18. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust, and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. So Prabhupada makes the point, and of course, it's just such a standard point. A demoniac person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He's envious of both the scriptures and the Lord. Yeah. This is caused by his so-called prestige and accumulation of wealth and strength. So, Prabhupada in the purport says that in this life we're preparing for the next life, and these people are preparing for a very bad next life. But they don't know that. So not knowing this, Prabhupada says, he's actually envious of his own self as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. This is craziness, isn't it? If someone puts their hand on a table, takes a hammer, and goes bang on their hammer, they're crazy. They're crazy. They're envious of themselves. Yeah, it's a very sick situation. Baladev Vijabhushan says, they ascribe faults to the qualities of the Vedas, or speaking as Krishna. They ascribe faults to the qualities of the Vedas and myself by dishonest logic. And Prabodhananda Saraswati says, this is a good one, listen to this. Listen to this. These people are more pitiful than those who are pitied by the pitiful. Catch that. They are more pitiful than those who are pitied by people who are pitiful. 19. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. So Srila Prabhupada begins the purport. In this verse, it's clearly indicated that the placing of a particular individual soul in a particular body is the prerogative of the supreme will. And then Prabhupada goes into, he discusses as he has done already in numerous places, the process of getting your next body after death. And Prabhupada explains, as for the demoniac, it is clearly said here. Where is this actually? Okay, anyway, it's somewhere here. As for, oh yeah, there it is, towards the end of the paragraph. As for the demoniac, it is clearly said here that they are perpetually put into the wombs of demons, and thus they continue to be envious, the lowest of mankind. Okay, now, there's one more verse in this section, and then there's a short final section. I want to give just a little more attention to this last verse here. So let's save it. We will save verse 20 for Monday, plus 21 to 24, because there's some interesting comments. Very interesting. So we'll end here. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.